Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is the last practice session for the Red Hat Certified Specialist in Managing Automation with Ansible Automation Platform exam EX467. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who has not subscribed to click the subscribe button. Also, a reminder that these videos are my practice sessions for the exam. I go through all of the posted objectives and either try to demonstrate them or talk about whatever the concepts are for the objective. And at the end of the video, I do a little assessment and hopefully I will feel confident with said objectives. That being said, these videos should not be considered tutorials or official training materials or authoritative information. I do try to have the information accurate because hopefully at this point, which my exam's only in about, I guess at this point, now a day and a half or so, that I have the information accurate. But just remember, I'm still learning right along with you. I put these videos on the internet in hopes of anyone working on the exam, or rather working on preparing for the exam, might see some of the stuff that I do and get some ideas of what they can do to do their own preparation. But again, these are not to be considered tutorials. I'm actually a little annoyed with how I approached this particular exam as far as preparation. Usually I go through whatever course materials I'm going to go through, and then I will do some practicing of all of the stuff after I go through my course materials. Then I will do what I call my final practice sessions, which are these recordings where I do my little self-assessment, and usually I do that 3, maybe 4 weeks out from taking the exam, because I do truly have time to fill some knowledge gaps. This time, the way life and such worked out, I didn't have nearly the amount of time I usually take to prepare for the exam, and so that's why 2 days before I'm doing my last of the final practice sessions. But I think in general I'm pretty well prepared for this exam. I don't have absolute mastery over everything, which in my experience you don't necessarily need that. You need to know your stuff, but I always look at certification exams generally as it's kind of like a driver's license, in the way that it shows, all right, so of the things on this, you have shown that you have competence in these areas, and then you will grow and learn as you gain experience. But anyway, so enough about my lamenting the preparation for the exam. This video, I'm going to look at the last of the topics, which is backup and restoration of the Ansible Automation Platform. And I also might talk a little troubleshooting stuff, which I'm kind of surprised there actually hasn't been an official, troubleshooting objective. Usually there's some nebulous troubleshooting thing that can strike fear in the hearts of those preparing, because anything could come up in troubleshooting, right? So let me log into my control node. I've actually refreshed my environment again to get rid of the automation mesh. And the backup and restoration process is fairly simple for Ansible Automation Platform. It utilizes the same setup script that you had before. And so far, I've done this several times in my preparation, and it has seemed to have worked pretty well. So I have a project that I've made, and as a result of that, I've made some credentials that are source control credentials and machine credentials. From this project, I created an inventory that has my 4 little lab nodes in it, and I've made some job templates that all these jobs are just playbooks that run a debug thing. So the process for doing the backup, let me go into my terminal, and I'm going to go into my original downloads folder, is that you run the setup script with the -B option. And so what this is going to do is basically make a tar archive of your environment, to where if you need to restore, you'll be running the setup script with -R to do the restoration. So we'll kick that off. -B for backup. I'm going to become for this. I'm actually not, let's see if it'll run without doing the ignore pre-flight errors. And from what I remember when running this, it doesn't take as long as the setup, but it is a non-trivial amount of time. So let's see if it makes it through the pre-flight checks. I believe that it has already. So I'll pause and resume the video once the backup is done. All right, and we are done with the backup. It only took just a couple of minutes or so. So let's do a few destructive things here. We'll get rid of all the job templates. So delete those. All right, they're now gone. And what we can do, let me log out of the control node. Let's test to see if this backup actually works. And we're going to do one other thing here. Notice how we have backup latest. You can do multiple backups. I can't remember. Let's see if this will give. I know there probably is a way if you have multiple backups, because all the latest is just a symlink to whatever the latest thing is. Off the top of my head, I'm not remembering the exact syntax to get a backup other than that. So let's say that we're on the exam and we would have to know that. What we can do, start looking at the setup script, as the setup script itself is not very long and there may be a clue about that. Upon a quick check, I don't see any, but I have a feeling I'm probably not going to need that. But I do know that I know of a way to choose which backup you want to restore. I just can't remember the syntax off the top of my head. One thing to note though is I believe all you actually need is obviously the restoration and the original inventory that you need the setup script, your inventory, and the tar archive. And the setup script, I think, has to be the same version as whatever version of Ansible automation platform you're trying to restore. So let's put that to the test. Like all the other stuff you don't necessarily need to have. So we're going to go up and we're going to make a copy to ap2.2.back. And we are going to blow away basically everything that's in here. So get rid of backup.log, bundle, go ahead and add rf to that since these are going to be directories, collections, group vars, images, licenses, readme, the restore logs I've done, the setup logs I've done. Okay, so let's see if we can restore with just this. So setup.sh -r for restore. We need to become. I'm also not going to do the pre-flight check, and let's see if it will work. And alas, it needed, I guess, the group vars directory. I thought I remember reading that it actually did not need all of the stuff. I guess it kind of makes sense as far as the way the inventory is going to work is looking for group vars. So let me copy group vars to here. And let's try the restore again. Okay, this does make sense because, I mean, you're going to need the playbooks and all that comes from the collections. And then the collections are stored in that folder. So I suppose you do need to have an installer for that. I can't remember where I read that you didn't need all the stuff. So not that I would recommend blowing away the stuff. I was just curious to see if that would work. So now let's try a setup from this folder that should have everything that we need. One thing to keep in mind, let's say, all right, so your inventory has all of your default admin passwords, and if you have since changed them and then you do this restore, they will be set back to whatever password that they have, and I believe this can be true for the individual users as well. So just something to always keep in mind. Make sure that you don't lock yourself out. But I suppose for the admin account, you'll be able to see in the inventory what that password is, so it's not going to be that huge of a problem. All right, and the restoration is done. So, and that didn't take nearly as long as it takes to do an install, which would make sense. Let's see if our job templates are back. And they are. So, yay, restoration is done. Thinking about the exam, you get 4 hours for this. And if you have to do a full install, that's going to take a chunk of time. I'm not sure if I'll actually do this on the exam, but I wonder if it would be a wise thing to consider, like right when the exam starts, run a backup, because this is assuming that we're provided a functioning Ansible automation platform environment, which, there's, even if I did know, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but there's no way to know that. But if that is the case, I wonder if it would be wise to run a backup. So that way, if you're in the exam and, you're too far gone, you have to start over. Hopefully that will not be the case, but you can run your restore to at least get back to the state that the exam was when you started. But anyway, so that's backing up and restoring. That catches the objectives. There's a couple of things I did want to show you from like a troubleshooting perspective and how to check for stuff. So I'm going to log in to my control node, expand my window here a bit. And I'm actually going to go ahead and become root for this. So, in the event of doing some troubleshooting, and I haven't dug real deep into all these services, I'm aware of them and such. And if I had to troubleshoot them on the exam, I would be just applying basic troubleshooting Linux service kind of stuff. But you can run, I believe it is automation controller service. Yeah, get some tab completion there. And I'm just going to do -- help because there's a couple of things you can do. You can start and stop the services. You can restart all of the services, and you can do status. Status will show you, it's basically running systemctl for all of the different services that are going on here. So we have the automation controller service, Redis, we have the Nginx service, because obviously we have web services being done. There is this supervisor D service. This service is really what's running all of the stuff that's under the hood making automation controller work. And there's something I'm going to show you with that. The receptor service, this, if I recall correctly, is basically what is if you have your automation mesh, or even without automation mesh, we have, or at least in this environment, I have the automation hub, but the receptor service is what's facilitating that mesh communication. There should be, everything there. And I think, what's the PID for the receptor service? 5482. Let's run SSTULPN. Okay, so there's nothing listening. What I was looking for was if it was listening on that like 2977 or 27999. I can't remember the port number off the top of my head, but it's the port that is used for peering amongst all of the stuff. And if I understand correctly, that receptor service is what's handling that kind of stuff. But anyway, the thing I wanted to show you, it is supervisor, I think it's supervisor D CTL. Let's see. Or is it supervisor CTL? Maybe it's supervisor D CTL. Nope, it's not that. Let's see if tab completion will help. Yeah, supervisor CTL. There it is. And what that shows, all of the like child processes that makes up supervisor D. This can show you the status of that. And I'm curious, looks like that will give you, when in doubt, do help. Okay, so it looks like you can mess with the services some there and then exit out of that. So that's curious for supervisor D. Hopefully I'm not going to deal with that being, totally broken, because on the exam that'll be a challenge to handle, because I have not, dove into the super inner workings of supervisor D. The other thing I wanted to mention is, let's say that your admin account is totally broken. Now I haven't dealt with AWX as far as the project. I know of it, but I haven't deployed it before. But I believe some of the AWX commands will work with this. And there's one that you can add a super user, and you can change the password of the default admin user. So let's see if I can work that out. It's dash manage. Let me do dash help. Maybe that will show me some stuff. Oh, it's showing all the stuff you can do. What's the one I'm looking for? Yeah, change password. You can change the admin password. So let me do that real quick. AWX manage, change password. Tab completion is not working for the second part of that. I think by default it chooses the admin user, but you might be able to do another user with that. Ah, okay. So I guess it's just trying to do the current like logged in user for the Linux machine. So we'll try it for admin, and we'll change it to testing. All right, and let's log out and back in. I'm going to use the password that I always use, and this should fail, and it does. And now we'll try the testing password. And so that works. So that little piece worked well. I'm not sure if we can do this against the private automation hub. I wonder if that's a thing. I guess we can try it. This will be the last little thing that I mess around with here. So let's go into become root, and getting no tab completion for AWX. So I'm not exactly sure how to change that admin password with Automation Hub, but there's nothing in the objectives that would make me think you necessarily have to do that. There's also nothing in the objectives for the controller, but all of this is really based around, or most of these objectives are based around the controller, and I don't think it's necessarily unreasonable that you might be asked on the exam to basically break into the automation controller to start doing stuff. Now, of course, you could, I think, do that, as long as you have root access to the VM itself that is running the automation controller. You could run your setup script and dictate the admin password that way. But you can also do the AWX-manage method. So as far as the objectives, I believe I can handle backing up and restoring an instance of automation controller. The backup instance of private automation hub, that was included in the backup for the automation controller. How to do them separately, I'm not exactly sure. I would imagine maybe you in the inventory you would only have the entries for automation hub, but from what I gathered, running that setup script, you're going to be capturing everything anyway. So that brings my preparation for the EX467 exam to an end. The exam's in about a day and a half. Now, by the time I get this video out to YouTube, it's probably going to be several months because it takes a little while. Even though I don't do a lot of editing, I'll do some audio stuff to bring the voice level up some, and I try to edit out some of the, like your waiting 30 minutes for the install to happen, things like that, but that takes time, and my general time is limited, and I'm trying to get through my 5 exams for the R8CA. So once this is done, assuming I pass, I hope that I will, and I think that I will, I'll be getting started on the next exam. So eventually these will be out there. If you have found the videos helpful, useful, or enjoyed them in some way, make sure you do click like on the video, and feel free to share them with others. Again, these are not designed to be tutorials. I'm just kind of giving an example of how I do a practice session about the objectives in hopes of kind of giving you maybe some ideas of things that you could do. Or if you're preparing and you see the things that I'm doing and you're like, hey, there's more that needs to be done, well, you can take that upon yourself with your own preparation to do whatever that more is. Regardless, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as encourage folks that are watching, if you haven't subscribed, to click that subscribe button and ring the bell. As always, thank you for your time, and I will see you the next time.